But I want to take my V chisel and I want to go on the outside of the flower. And the shadow lines, these little sketch lines, really show which parts are going under, right? This edge here next to the shadow line is on top of this. So as you're looking in this, we're not really doing that yet, but like right here, all of this is going in or underneath these petals. Okay, so that's what those shadow lines are for. Okay, and so I'm going to carve on the outside of the line. I'm leaving that edge of the flower, so that we're going to define that later. Okay, moving to this one here. Okay, then what I'm going to do is same thing as when you define the outside of this. We're going to define the outside, and this is where, see that little curve there? This is actually a number 3. I was going to show you if I wanted to take that and then just notch it along. Okay, and this is probably where you're going to need to do a little bit of adjusting with the tools. There's going to be a lot more shape, a lot more curves. So I'm going to have to kind of play around with that and see what tools work and make tools do all sorts of things they were not meant to do. Let's focus on this one here. Now I'm going to carve this down. I'm using the number 3 and rounding this down. And with with this, we've got a very flat surface across the top of this, and I really don't want to leave, when I'm carving something like this, I don't want to leave that original planed flat surface. So along the way, I want this to curve down, and then I'm going to have this curve down here too, and then I'm just going to make this real smooth transition so that there's none of that sort of flat surface. So there's not this carved part and then a flat. Even if it transitions in, I still want to pretty much carve all the surface, because it will be obvious that that it was that plain. Okay, this is where I want to try to round this down as far back as I can so that I can give that as much shape as possible. All right, now I'm going to just define that a little bit more. And then there's a couple options you can do with the end here. And I'll show you. Generally, they do tend to just sort of roll down and then just a curve like that. But we can get really fancy if you want. You can try this on some of the other leaves. Let's take this is number 7. And what you can do, just see if this will work, but I want it to sort of flip up a little bit on the end. Okay, just so it kind of comes down and flips up. So we've got a little bit of shape. If you're looking at it from the side, it's going down, up, and then curving up a little bit. And then I'm going to make this transition. You know, it's funny, you can actually hear when a tool is starting to get dull. You can actually hear the difference in the wood when it gets a little bit louder as it scrapes across. If you listen to this, you see, and then if you take one that I just sharpened, it's just a much smoother sound.
That's sort of grainy sound.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, I just completely got rid of that line. And just put it here so you can see a little bit of a shadow. Okay, so that's the general shape of it. Now, when I want to do that that center vein, if I take the center vein and just go straight across like that, it's going to completely flatten out that leaf. Even no matter how much of a curve I've carved in it, if I take that center vein and just straighten it out, it's going to give that illusion that it's just a flat leaf. But let's see if I can actually erase this. If I take it like this, and make a little bit of a wiggle in it.
Oh, yes.
And it just, and you can do that trick if you've got a very, very flat leaf. Let's say I didn't have the room to make it sort of go up and down like that. If I've got a very flat leaf and I make that curve in the center vein, it'll give that illusion that it's more curved than it actually is. So, tricks. Okay, so then I'm going to go with the V-chisel. I'm going to go right over that. And this is also, as you go into there, if you've got this angled back, it's going to actually hit that wall of that edge before the V. So that's where you might want to have a couple different shapes of the V-chisel. If the wall of the V-chisel is flat, I'll be able to actually reach a little closer to here without this hitting first. Right? Is that making sense? So anyway, those are just sort of some arguments for and against shaping and reshaping tools. This is where you need to make sure you're going in the right grain direction. I'm going to come along here, and this is my number 3 6mm. And just flow that in very gently so it creates a little bit more shape. I'm going to have to come in this direction. So you try not to, at this point, have too much, I'm going to go right against the grain, too much of a transition between these sort of flowing lines, flowing into there. You don't want to have any sharp edges. And then just very last but not least, and I actually didn't draw these on the template, but there are little segments of the leaf coming out. Very, very subtle. Just take V-chisels, but make sure that they're actually flowing down to the base of the leaf. So they're actually flowing into the in this direction. If I took it and let's just focus on that one over here. If I took it and made the petals or those veins like that, it won't look right. They have to flow down towards that vein. Okay. So I'm just going to take a little V-chisel and very, very subtle, not that deep, just enough to really create some shadow lines.